Welcome back. Once again, adventurers, let's play Robotics Notes Elite. In the last episode, Kaito was with Akiho outside of the Expo Center, along with everyone else who managed to evacuate and other people who were outside in the vicinity when the second solar storm hit, courtesy of the Grand Obelisk, brought about into existence by the Committee of 300. But for the most part, Kaito and Akiho and everyone else are relatively okay. For now, that is. Many people have been injured, and there has been a lot of damage. On top of that, Michi is missing and nowhere to be found, which is actually a very worrying thing. Though with that said, Kaito was surprised when Sumio, of all people, managed to track the two of them down. And he actually had some very interesting things to share with Kaito, namely that there was something odd about the way that the solar storm had supposedly affected the Pokecoms. People could still use Twippo and the internet, but as far as phones were concerned, they were all cut for some reason, which is which is a sign that something a little bit more deliberate is at hand. On top of that, if anyone happens to use the IRUO app, things in Odaiba look much worse than they appear, and because of all the panic that has ensued, nobody has really realized, other than us that is, that there is something fishy going on here with that, with fake digital information being threaded into IUO to make things seem a bit worse than they currently are right now. But as far as the mass media on the outside are concerned, Odaiba is basically a complete and total ruin of its former self, which isn't the case. And finally, to note that the robots this time haven't staged an uprising. They haven't been sort of hacked as such, at least to our knowledge. However, Sumio did notice that they were securing the area and preventing people from going in and out of Odaiba, which in and of itself is very suspicious on top of everything that we've already been through. And so to look for Michi and to look for the vanishing Misaki Sumio, Kaito returned to the Expo building and found instead the collapsed form of none other than Mr. Sawada, who sustained injury during the collapse of the building. But meanwhile, outside, Akiho was still... she's not in a good way. Mentally, she is completely and absolutely exhausted. As I sit on the ground, hugging my knees, my butt is starting to get cold. The inside of the Expo Center had AC, but due to all the body heat coming off of the guests, it wasn't that cold. And then you had all the robots to boot. I just realized for the first time since coming here, Tokyo is a cold, cold place. I haven't been able to stop trembling for a while. That trembling isn't just due to the cold atmosphere, Akiho. But is that because I'm actually cold? Not really. Or is it because of everything that happened? It doesn't matter. I try to ward off the cold by hugging my body tightly. I should have brought some hand warmers or something. Unfortunately, Akiho, that's not the kind of cold that you can simply get rid of by warming your body heat alone. All our time was spent in the hotel in Expo Arena, so I'm not even wearing a proper jacket. You did have a vest on. In fact, I think you still do. My outfit's fine for Tanegashima, but it's way too light for February in Tokyo. I can tell by looking at the people around me. Unlike me, they're all bundled up. Not a single one of the girls have their legs exposed. The only warm thing I have on me is the little darkened fink in my hand. The only keepsake that Akiho's kept. Big Sis made it for me 10 years ago, and it's been one of my closest friends ever since. Squeezing it makes me feel a little better, but the peace of my mind is temporary at best. As long as it helps, why not? Suddenly I remembered the warmth of my sister's hands when she would hold mine. After the MF Anemone incident, which we still don't know about in greater detail, when I woke from my 3-day coma, Big Sis was right there beside me.
Aki, よかった。よかった。
When she realized I'd woken up, large tears started falling from her eyes and onto my cheeks. I can still remember how warm those tears were.
もうずっと目を覚ましてくれないかと思っていたわ。よかった。お姉ちゃん。辛かったよね。よく頑張ったわね。実はあんまりよく覚えてない。
She was only a child after all. That's understandable.
そうなのね。そうなるわよね。意識なかったんだから。でも、秋のいない3日間は私にとっては寂しくて寂しくて、世界から色がなくなってしまったんじゃないかって思えたくらいだったのよ。
3 days, as opposed to 7 years. Mother later informed me that Big Sis sat by my side the entire time, holding my hand tightly and talking to me. She didn't even sleep. Kai was also unconscious the whole time, which means that she left him alone. I kind of felt bad about that. Granted, he wasn't all alone. His mother and dad were there with him.
秋が目を覚まさなかったなら、私は一生でもここであなたの手を握り続けていたわ。ありがとう。目覚めてくれてありがとう、秋。私はあなたのことが大好きよ。
Hearing those words from Big Sis made me so happy, I could never put it into words. I can't remember a time that I was happier to have her as my older sister.
うちも
お姉ちゃんのこと大好き。
But thinking back on it, I think that was the turning point. After that incident, Big Sis began to grow distant. Whenever we were at home, she was always on edge. She had a constant aura that made it really hard to talk to her.
秋は何をやっても平凡止まりなのよ。
Those were the words Big Sis left me with before she left the island.
秋。大きくなったわね。
And then there was that. Her smile was the same as always. At least I think it was.
Aki?
Her gentle demeanor hadn't changed at all. At least it shouldn't have. Was this a duplicate? An apparition? We don't know right now.
まだ?
And yet the questions are very stilted. Very... I thought it'd be like we were never apart, that we'd chat for hours and hours. I'd finally caught up to Big Sis. I finally fulfilled my dream. I expected her to praise me for all my hard work. Not amazing like my sister. We've heard many times. But as an ordinary person, I thought I could hold my head up high and proudly proclaim that I gave it my all. I thought I'd be able to say at least that much. But right before my very eyes, Big Sis. She, to Gumbel too. The part that Akiho is having incredible difficulty reconciling.
わかんない。
There's a lot we don't understand right now, Akiho.
もうわかんないよ。
It was always me trying to get in touch with her. I tried emailing her, calling her, but no matter how I tried to contact her, she never answered me, and she never came back to the island to see me, not even once. Apparently she stayed in touch with Mizuka-san, but she avoided me. I must have been nothing but a bother to her. I relied on her too much and now she's done with me. She doesn't love me anymore. That's not quite true. This must be my fault for getting too excited about seeing her again. Who wants a dumb, overly excited little sister like me, right? I'm just in the way. And on top of that, I did it right before her important demonstration in front of a huge audience. It only makes sense that she'd abandoned me for not being able to read the room. It's natural. My vision goes blurry. I wipe away the tears welling up with my hands. I'm tired of everything. No matter how hard I try and charge forward with all I've got, I know that it's all for nothing. I understand that now. I'm done. I've seen this state before. Done with making calls that will never be answered. Done with sending messages that will never get replies. Done chasing after my amazing, kind big sister that everyone called a prodigy. I'm done with it all. Every time. I was always so nervous whenever I tried to call Big Sis. I struggled with it for several minutes, even hours, before I finally gathered up the courage to hit the call button. I called even though deep inside I was secretly hoping she wouldn't answer. And yet every time she didn't answer, I'd feel like crying anyway. All alone. I did this over and over again for 7 lonely years after she left the island.
バカみたい。本当にバカみたいだよ。
She was just avoiding me the entire time. Big Sis never saw me as anything but a pain in her ass. All the tears I've been holding back threatened to come bursting forth. I raised my head to try and hold them back. I look around me. Mr. Candy is standing nearby, furiously operating his Pokémon with his big hands. Kai. Hey, where are you? No matter how much I search, I can't find my beloved childhood friend. He let go of my hand just a bit ago, but where did he go?
カイ、早く帰ってきて。
I wonder what Kai thinks of me. When the Robotics Club was disbanded, he made that promise to me. Is it still okay for me to believe him? He's got your back, Akiho, don't you worry. But we have some business to take care of. I don't think Sawada is our enemy anymore. In fact, I think it was rather presumptuous of me to see him as an enemy from the start. But then again, it's not like we had proof that he wasn't at the time. Taiyo development looks totally back. Are they at full power? Yeah, even Frau doesn't know what to make of what's going on right now. And nothing else right now. The gun I'm pointing at Sawada is trembling pathetically. I'm normally calm and collected when I play ranked kill ballad, but this is a completely different story. Yeah, it is when you're actually holding an actual firearm. The sensation of the gun in my hand, its weight. It looks just like a toy, but in reality it's extremely thick and feels very heavy. Shit, with openings like this, I'm practically asking to get killed. Just thinking about that is enough to make me feel anxious.
君か。
You're not dead, which is a good sign. Sawada stays flat against the wall, making no attempt to move. Even with a gun pointed at him, he doesn't try to run away.
怪我してたんだね。
Say that again. His left leg is soaked in blood. blood spread through to his suit, darkening it.
瀬宮が派手にやらかしてくれたおかげでな。だからそんなもの構えなくていい。元から君に危害を加えるつもりもない。
So he's not on the committee's side. Otherwise, well, we would have been dealt with sooner rather than later. I slowly lowered the gun. Yeah. If the police suddenly did decide to show up, we would be in trouble. As I go to put it back into my pocket.
安全装置をしておけ。暴発しても知らないぞ。
Now that is a pro tip. Yeah, you won't hear Michi give you that one, Kaito. Safety. I look at the gun and find something that resembles the switch, but I don't know if it's the safety or not. I warily look at Sawada. Yeah, he's telling the truth. He gently nods, so I flip the switch to on and stuff the gun back into my pocket.
救急車は来ないから、怪我の治療はできないよ。悪いけど。
He's not that badly hurt, for now.
気にしなくていい。一応応急処置は自分でした。と言っても血を止めただけだが。
Indeed, courtesy of the tourniquet. Despite being injured, Sawada is oddly calm. And this guy has no weaknesses at all. It's kind of frustrating, but I'll deal with it. I glance at the devices on the floor nearby. I have a feeling now what they might be. Or not. As far as I can tell, they're metal boxes. I thought they would have been medical supplies, but no. Each is about the size of a bulky dictionary. The letters N4 are written on the surfaces. There are 4 of them strewn about, 3 of which have been violently disassembled with their circuit boards and various cords yanked out.
これは沈黙の兵器。
Silent weapons, huh?
魔法の正体というところだ。どういう意味？君は種子島に住んでるんだろう。そして君島レポートを集め世界中に拡散した。
That is indeed, as you say, correct.
それならわかるはずだが。
I gulp involuntarily.
なんで俺が拡散したって知ってるわけ？ネット上でもまだ特定されてないはずなのに。君についてはロボワンで初めて見た時からずっと監視をつけていた。何のために？被験者の追加調査といったところだ。
Last, we're finally getting to the heart of the matter. I don't follow what he's saying at all. But despite my own confusion, I can't let those words slip by unnoticed. Yeah, those seizures of yours, Kaito, the ones you and Akiho get, yeah, they're not natural.
俺が被験者だっていうの？あんた、俺に何を？私は何もしていない。何も。じゃあ電磁波照射だ。
Electromagnetic radiation.
はあ？君は電磁波照射実験に巻き込まれたことがある。そのことを言っている。
You've seen those words before. An electromagnetic irradiation experiment. suddenly hits me. In my 18 years of life, there's only one event that could fit that description. Indeed.
Anemone-go.
The anemone, of course.
その時に使われたものと同じだ。そこに転がっている装置はな。
So they use those same devices as well.
この会場内にいくつも仕掛けられていた。おそらくここだけではない。お台場のあちこちに密かに設置されているんだろう。
And possibly all over Tokyo.
待った、ちょっと待った。何いきなりさらっとすごいこと暴露しちゃってるわけ。
Well, you're gonna have to, Kaito, because the truth waits for no one.
電磁波照射実験ってなんだよ。それで何が起きるんだよ。お台場にいっぱいあるって何がどうなって。
魔法だよ。
Or at least it would be considered such to people on the outside.
君は見ていないのか？海から生えたあの巨大な塔を。
グランドオベリスクのこと。
お台場にいる人間は全員あれを肉眼で視認しているが、
Indeed.
惑わされるな。あれは幻影だ。肉眼で見える AR のようなものだ。
Augmented reality, huh? AR. Like what was used on IUO. Then again, only one group would employ this technology, the Committee of 300, derived from their experiments in Shibuya regarding real booting and virtual rebuilding.
むしろそう思わなかったことが不思議だな、私は。あの規模の建物をほんの数時間で建てたとでも。
It's like you could read my mind. Yes, I definitely have my doubts. But I didn't entertain them. I didn't even try to.
だけどみんながみんな同じ幻覚を見てるなんてありえるわけ。
It's a little something called dead spots, Kaito.
そのための装置だ。
Sawada shifted his gaze to the boxes on the floor.
電磁波を照射して集団に幻覚を見せる装置。
Illusions, delusions, whatever. Either works. Something like that was written in the Kimijima reports. He said that the Tavistock Institute was doing research into that kind of technology.
でもアネモネ号じゃ俺は幻覚なんて見てない。それどころか変な発作の後遺症ができただけだ。
10年前その装置のデータは一度失われたと聞いている。渋谷地震の時にね。
So that data had been lost during the events of 2009, huh? The Shibuya earthquake. The incident at the heart of which was none other than Mr. Neidhart himself, Takumi Nishijo.
故にアネモネ号の時は未完成状態で実験をしていた可能性が高い。
Or at the very least, an extension variant of it.
俺やアキちゃんは人体実験の実験台にされたってことかよ。
And pretty much everyone else on that ship, or maybe Akiho, Sumio, and Kaito Yashio were the only intended human test subjects on that boat.
最初からそう言っている。
You can't rule out that possibility.
あんたが
勘違いするな。その実験を行ったのは私ではないとすでに言った。
No choice but to take Meta's word, Kaito. I hold back the urge to shout at him.
あんたは300人委員会の人間じゃないの？
私のことをどこまで知っている？
We know a bit. Wait demands my question, but not the question.
あんたの父親が旅ストックの特別顧問だってことぐらいは。
そうか。
Sawada laughed to himself, or perhaps at himself, before returning to his piercing gaze. Then, without answering my question,
ヒドゥンハン
his whisper sends a chill down my spine. That word again.
ド。神の見えざる手。そしてカゴメカゴメ。どちらもイルミナティに関係したキーワードだ。気づいていたか？
イルミナティ。
Well, if we hadn't already been delving into conspiracy theory territory before, we are now.
200年以上も前に存在していた秘密結社にして300人委員会の元にある者たちだよ。
Of course, beneath the committee of 300. Are you serious?
カゴメカゴメはダビデの星を暗喩すると言われている。
いや、だってカゴメカゴメって日本の童謡だよ。
200年以上も前と言ったぞ。300人委員会もイルミナティもその設立は1700年代だ。日本は当時まだ江戸時代中期だよ。見えざる支配者たちならば当時黄金鏡と言われたこの極東の地にもその触手を伸ばしていたとして何ら不思議はないだろう。
This is all very interesting, but it has little to do with the current situation that we are finding ourselves in, Sawada.
一斉にみんなのポケコンでカゴメカゴメが鳴り出すの300人委員会の仕業ってわけ。
実験開始の合図というのが今のところの私の予想だ。
It's exactly the same with Mizuka.
実験。
More experiments.
私たちは今地球規模で捏造された現実を見せられている。プロパガンダと言い換えることもできる。より強力な洗脳どころか現実をもねじ曲げるレベルのものだが、
One would say a whole new dimension.
今この瞬間ありとあらゆるプロパガンダがリアルタイムで起きている。そうして人々の現実はねじ曲げられる。情報操作による人為的パラダイムシフト。これまでの実験はすべてこの日のためにあったと言ってもいい。これはプロジェクトアトムの前兆だ。
Project at A2.
情報を操作したからってどうなるわけ？
You'd be surprised, Kaito.
お台場が崩壊したなんて情報は1日もすればすぐに嘘だって判明して世界中に拡散されるよ。こ んなことで何十億人も虐殺できるとは思えない。
この数時間の世界規模の混乱は何が原因で引き起こされたものかわかるか？
Sawada immediately changes the subject.
太陽嵐でしょ。これまでで最大規模なんだ。15年クラッシュの時より強力だから電子機器も使えなくなって、それで混乱を。
太陽嵐など来ていない。
So that was also
はあ
part of the augmented reality. What is he trying to say?
だって NASA がデータを公表してたよ。マスコミだってそう報道を。
NASA は設立当初から300人委員会の傘下だ。マスコミについても論外だな。彼らこそ情報操作の先兵ではないか。
He certainly raises a point there.
太陽嵐はまだ来てない。
In other words, if there hasn't even been a storm, much less two, then that casts the Kimijima reports completely into doubt.
だが今や世界中は太陽嵐の到来という誤情報により狂乱状態だ。これこそがプロパガンダのもたらした捏造された現実だよ。
In other words, that would make the Kimijima's reports themselves incredibly suspect.
君も今まさにそれを体験しているではないか。
Despite actually having a great deal of topical truth, even truth can conceal lies.
巨大な柱から放たれた光、虹色に輝いた空、お台場が崩壊したと騒ぎ立てているマスコミ。
That would also mean that even the leaked episode of Gun Barrel, the images that were there, the visual ones and the hidden subliminal ones, just by looking at it, the seeds of propaganda and manipulation were planted.
にもかかわらず我々はこうしてここで普通に話している。ポケコンも普通に使うことができる。
捏造された現実。
お台場が崩壊したなど普通は誰も信じない。だがポケコンとイルオの普及がそのいかにも嘘くさい情報操作をあっさりと世界中に信じ込ませた。イルオは今や世界の人々にとって現実よりもリアルだからな。そこに崩壊したお台場の画像がアップロードされれば、イルオユーザーのおよそ半分が信じたとしても、それだけで10億人超だ。その数の人間が信じれば現実は揺らぐ。人が相互に持つ情報などそれだけ曖昧ということだ。
Just going back on my thoughts. If the Kimijima reports themselves are now suspect, as Kaito should surely realize that they are, that begs the question of whether or not Ko Kimijima actually published them at all. That would bring Ko Kimijima's character into question if he did publish them, as we believe. But But that doesn't wash with his taking care of Irie and all of the warnings.
捏造された情報は簡単に現実ととって変わることができる。
Unless, of course, we've been on one great big chicken feed hunt this whole time. All that glitters is not gold.
人間の歴史を見てみるといい。歴史は常に勝者が作ってきた。それが今も変わらず行われているという、それだけのことだ。
ポケコンやイルオまで陰謀に組み込まれてるって言いたそうだけど。
Which makes sense given that happiness for you are also under the manipulation of the committee.
そんなのいくらなんでも飛躍しすぎでしょ。
If you go that far, you might as well say that every product in the world is part of some master plan.
じゃあ、ロボットブームもそういうプロパガンダなわけ。
Remember the warning about gun barrel, Kaito?
そうだ。
I was being facetious, but Sawada replies quickly without a hint of a smile.
頑張れるというアニメのヒットも、それに続くロボットブームも不自然だとは思わなかったか。ロボットアニメなどこれまで無数に作られてきた。それらと比べて頑張れるがあそこまで爆発的なヒットを飛ばした理由は何だ？
My answer would normally be it would come down to personal preference. Any series, no matter where it is in franchise, can become incredibly popular and beloved. Is he trying to say that this was propaganda too? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can just call that good advertising, right?
ロボットブームは頑張れるよりさらに不自然さが際立っている。二足歩行ロボットは所詮日本でだけ培われてきた文化に過ぎない。世界的にはニッチな研究分野なんだ。軍事への転用を最優先にしたアメリカなどは二足歩行ではなく四足歩行や六足歩行を選択した。
Like Sumeragi, for example. But if that's the case, then that would mean that Sumeragi was designed in America. Or wait, there was that tweet before about a military exercise possibly belonging to the United States Army. An exercise that may not really involve them, but involve a militia of some kind.
ロマンだけで企業が動くことはない。にもかかわらず、この数年で二足歩行ロボットを研究する企業が爆発的に増えた。
I would actually beg to differ on that first point. Companies have their own sense of romanticism, but I digress.
裏で委員会が動いたと見るのが妥当だろう。莫大な金が動いた形跡もある。
Money and influence.
300人委員会がロボットを押す理由は？
プロジェクトマルスの実現だよ。プロジェクトアトム成功後、10億まで減った人類社会を維持するための二足歩行ロボットの技術向上といったところだ。いずれにせよ、奴らの目的はただ一つ、プロジェクトアトムの完遂だ。その X デーは今日から数日の間だろう。この数日で50億人が死ぬか死なないか、その命運が決まる。
500 billion people eliminated, just so that the surviving 1 billion people will live under the hegemony of the Committee of 300. There's still more answers. that need to be unfolded. But meanwhile, we're elsewhere on the East China Sea with none other than Savaru's father, Hiromu, which is where I'm going to end this episode of Let's Play Robotics Notes Elite. And when we return, adventurers, there's a storm coming on the horizon. A genuine storm, and it's not a solar one. As always, until next we meet.